what we're building up to there, Jamie, and it is edge-of-the-seat stuff, is the attempted assassination of an SS general called Heydrich. You'll watch the film to see if it was successful or not, but it wasn't as simple as that. It wasn't just like being able to kill this guy would solve all the problems.
No, not at all. And, you know, there's a lot of doubt whether trying to kill this guy was the right thing to do for the people of Czechoslovakia as it was then. You know, there's a lot of people who were against the idea of it. He was the highest ever Nazi to be assassinated.
One of the things that, through your character, we feel the fear, because your character's frightened about what he has to do.
Yeah. For me, I mean, Cillian's character is far more in control. He'd be the alpha of the relationship if you had to pick one. But I found Jan more relatable because he was riddled with self-doubt and he had anxiety. As much as you think you'd be the sort of person who'd be like, oh, I'd be fine, I could pull the trigger, I could do it. The reality is that I'd be a wreck, you know?
This is a true story.
Totally
so
true,
how much of the story did you know?
Nothing.
Nothing, so you have to read up about this?
Absolutely, yeah, which is, you know, it's great sometimes when you're playing a real character or you're trying to tell a story that really happened, because there's so much more to draw on in terms of research. But, I mean, Cillian and I, neither of us knew anything about it. I mean, I didn't really listen. I wasn't a great student at school. History wouldn't have been where my attention was heading.
Is that because you always at school thought, I'm going to be an actor or I'm going to be a rock star?
No, my thing at school was that I don't know.
I was lazy.
Pretty lazy. I was at school felt like I was there for different reasons than education, in a way. I didn't always grow up thinking I wanted to be an actor, but I always knew I didn't have the right temperament, aptitude, whatever, to work in an office environment. I think every single person in the crew, every person in this room probably has the same attitude, and that's why you end up making
So where
movies.
did the acting idea come from? So if you didn't set out to be an actor, at what point did you think, oh, actually, maybe that's something I could do?
I got an agent at a point where I wasn't sure I wanted to be an actor.
So you were modelling first?
Yeah, I was modelling first, yeah. But when I got an agent, I was modelling. I was working in a pub in Knightsbridge.
So did you have acting lessons?
No, not really, no. If I was ever in LA in the early years, I'd go to the classes and stuff there, but I do think it's an instinctual craft.
Well, Jamie, you do it very, very well, and I think this film's very good for you because it doesn't have me thinking about 50 Shades. I can never remember. It's 40 Shades of Green and 50 Shades of Grey.
40 Shades is a prequel, yeah.
That's it. But the good thing is, it doesn't have me thinking about that. From an actor's point of view, that can be a pressure, that can be a burden.
Yeah, it certainly can be. But, you know, you do have to just see it as that's just one job. Yes, like, granted, it's a job that majority of people know you solely for that, especially, you know, in the States or whatever. But, you know, it is to me and to the actor, and I'd say any actor who's involved in any franchise would say the same thing. It is just another job, and then you sort of move on to the next thing and you play a different character, and then it becomes about that.
I also find it interesting that you've got two Czech resistance hero fighters played by two Irishmen.
Yeah.
You and Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
How did that turn out?
Well, that's just the way of it, really. You know, stuff like that happens all the time, I guess. Cillian was already attached to it when I got sent the script. I'm a massive fan of Cillian's. I'm an even bigger fan now that he's a mate, and we both, we didn't stay in the accent or whatever. We were lucky that we had a lot of Czech actors in the scenes with us who were doing Czech accented English, so that was helpful. But it's kind of odd that two Irishmen end up.
Well, the film Anthropoid was it's out on 9th of September. Does this mean you've got a break now? You're home with the family? And
I do have somewhat of a break now for the first time in a while, I have to say. So, yeah, it's nice, although a break with two kids under 2.
Well, congratulations,
under
because
3.
we haven't seen you, but March you had your second.
Yeah, February, yeah.
So two very young. How old's your Dulcie now?
Dulcie's nearly 3, she'll be 3 in November.
And how's she taken to being big sister?
Loves it. It's brilliant. It's the most magical thing in the world, you know. When she wakes up she just wants to see the baby, like, you know, instantly. And
how are you balancing things, Jamie? You have the 50 Shades trilogy. You've got a film like this to fit in, which must have been quite intense. And then you've got the amazing The Fall as well, which is back for another series.
Back at the end of September. Yeah.
How do you pack it all in?
You know, you just do. But no, look, I love it. I want to be busy. But I'm also aware that I'm a, you know, a young father, and I want to spend time with my kids. So, you know, they come everywhere with me, which we can afford to do at the moment before the kids start school.
Well, listen, considering a boy that didn't work very hard at school, you've done all right.
Done all right.
Done all
He's
right.
done it, in fact, darling, he's done a bit too well, to the point where I'm...
Are you a bit jealous?
Well, you could put it that. He's a man I grow as I get older to maybe not like as much as I did. I mean, I'll just give you an example. There was a competition in Belfast to name a bus after a famous Belfast person, right? And it was whittled down between me
I didn't know
and
you were...
him. Yeah, that was the opposition. Who do you think the great Belfast public voted to name the bus after? Wasn't me. Wasn't me.
It's probably the most stoned bus in Belfast now. I'd imagine people seeing my mug in the back of it.
Well, at least if the name... I don't look like the back end of a bus, at least. That's probably why. That's probably why it didn't...
Cheers.
Jamie, congratulations. You're obviously rubbing off well on your pro.
Seem to be, yeah. He's obviously learning a lot from my swing. He set the course record today. I just sat back and watched. I came in on one hole, birdied the 12 or something, and that was it. He did all the work. It's amazing to watch. Incredible.
You pay good money even just to walk inside the rope, but yet you're getting to be, you know, their playing partners. That's pretty special. So it's a real treat to be here.
It's the first time in competition I've played this course. Not made an eagle. I'm glad you brought that up.
I played a couple of practice rounds. I didn't see any eagles.
Oh, that's but competition when it
Oh,
matters.
yeah,
when
okay.
it matters, I
Step
get
up to the
eagles.
plate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hit it okay, but I think I have the course record on most 3-putts. There must have been six or seven in a row. Very frustrating, but kind of feels as though I'm not a million miles away. I'm always the half
From what?
glass from giving up completely.
The first tee at St Andrews is unbelievable. You've got all that fairway, and it's the hardest, for me, the hardest fairway. I've never hit it.
You hit rescue though.
I hit rescue and nearly went out of bounds right. Awful. And then I hit a spectator with my second. Unbelievable. I mean, I'm just terrible start I had today. And then I hit another spectator on the 15 with a shank with a 52 wedge to the gut. Anyway.
That 20 quid insurance was the best money you ever spent.
You can hear the crowd behind me. Very happy to see this guy. 50 Shades of Grey star Jamie Dornan. He is wrapping up the series, and he's taking on the battlefield now. I know. I won't be able to talk to him. There we go. Does this happen to you everywhere you go?
Of course, yeah.
This role that we're about to talk about is very, very different than 50 Shades, something you're very proud of. Tell us about Anthropoid.
Anthropoid is an operation, a true story about Second World War operation of 2 Czech soldiers who were parachuted into Nazi-occupied Prague to kill this guy called Reinhard Heydrich, who's third in the Reich, 2 behind Hitler. It's all very serious. It's all very serious,
like true, proper war movie. In fact, do you mind if I show a clip?
You show a clip, yeah.
Roll them.
If we can use a rope or a steel cable to stop the Mercedes, in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds would be all we need.
Even if a rope can't stop the car, we still need more than 30 seconds to escape from here. And we'd have to face the armed guard here in the open. It would not be my first choice.
And if it's our only choice.
What was it, Jamie? He hasn't even spoken yet. No. What was it, Jamie? So different than your 50 Shades role. What was it about this that you wanted to do?
I think as an actor you do want to just mix it up and do stuff that challenges you, that you know, and you don't want to be typecast, and yeah, you know, that is definitely a part of it. But I fell in love with the script and the story. I didn't know the story before, and I was a big fan of Sean Ellis, who directed it. I'd just seen a movie he'd done a few weeks before. I got sent the script, so I was so desperate to work with him.
And I'm sure it was nice to step away from 50 Shades. You've just wrapped that.
Yeah.
All 3 installments are now done.
Yeah, we did 2 and 3 back to back. So. And
what was that like, doing 2 together?
You know, it was the right way to do it. It was good for everyone in terms of like keeping up the sort of energy and stuff, rather than you know, it's a slog making movies. You know, it's
I mean, like it's way
good slog.
There's way harder ways to make a living. Don't get me wrong, but you know, but a lot of energy goes into them, and if you can do two in once, I don't know. I think it makes sense for everyone in the crew. You know, you just like do it all, and then you're out of there.
What will you miss most about Christian Grey?
Oh God.
Go with the wardrobe. Go with the wardrobe.
The wardrobe, definitely. The suits. Yeah.
Yeah, the toys. That character lives a nice life. Ooh, I meant like the apartment and.
Yeah. He's got some nice like cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Miss that.
And working with Dakota on this for you, it got to be sort of. There was a real. A comfortability.
Yeah, no, like I mean, that's again what's nice about doing two back to back. You know, if you do one movie and then we break for like a year and a half and then get back together, it's kind of it's sort of hard in a way for people to re-motivate themselves, and get back into character. But we have a lot of fun together. Dakota's funny, and we've been through this mad sort of journey together, and I'm very thankful that I've done it with someone who's easy to do it with, because it could have been a very different experience had we not got on, Yeah.
I hear you all giggling. You excited for the next two movies?
No.
And we're excited about Anthropoid, guys. Anthropoid, congratulations on all of your success. I know you're very proud of this film.
Yeah.
And it opens Friday, August 12th. Jamie, great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
TV show, our first guest plays the ultimate multitasker, bereavement counselor by day, serial killer by night. He plays Paul Spector on The Fall. Season 3 is available now on Netflix. Please welcome Jamie Dornan.
I'm excited.
All right. Calm down, you animals. We have a hose, and I will turn it on you if I have to. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Can you tell the difference between a 50 Shades of Grey fan and a fan of your television show, The Fall?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you know? How do you know who's going to bring what up?
There's a sort of energy in the eyes of a 50 Shades fan that the fans of The Fall just don't possess. It's like a hunger. And you can sort of see it and smell it.
Does it scare? Does the hunger ever scare you?
If it's in a pack, it's terrifying.
Oh, if there's a pack.
Yeah.
Oh, I would think individual hunger would be more alarming then, but I guess no. It's like wolves.
Depends on what sort of form it comes.
And in what form does it come?
In every form.
Every form. Yeah. You're originally from what part of Ireland?
From the north, from Belfast.
From Belfast. Yeah. And what are you from? A family of actors? Is that something that?
No. My family are mostly doctors, actually.
Oh, doctors.
Doctors. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
My father is an obstetrician / gynecologist.
Oh, so he.
By the way,
what's with the slash? I think you're taking your role too seriously.
Yeah, no, that's a really inappropriate way to sort of divide those two things. But I've heard
he delivers babies, your father.
He is, yeah. Mostly all in Northern Ireland, yeah.
Oh, how about that? Yeah.
About over 6,000 babies in Northern Ireland, which is pretty much everyone in Northern Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you must meet people whose babies were delivered by your dad all the time.
That's what people come up. Like, I'd be home in Belfast, and someone will come up to me, and I'm like, here we go. They're obviously a fan. And then they're like, oh, can I just say? I'm like, yeah. And your dad delivered me. I'm like, great.
I guess that gets less exciting by time number 5,000 that you hear that.
It does.
Yeah, but I would think, I have to admit, I would say that to you if your dad had delivered me, which he didn't, by the way.
He didn't?
He did not. No, I was born in the United States of America.
He got around.
Your dad?
Yeah, he might have, yeah.
Did he ever deliver a baby off-site, like in some weird situation?
You should get him on and ask him.
Yeah, I will get him on. He was on your show, wasn't he?
He's in The Fall, yeah, man. I didn't know about it either. It was...
What do you mean you didn't know?
Well, no, Dad is the worst person in the world at keeping secrets, but he managed to keep the biggest secret ever, which is he's on the fall. I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't arrange it. He's got to know, like Alan Cubitt, who created the show over the year, because it's been nearly 5 years of my life, this job. And so Dad's got to know him, like, socially and stuff. And they just arranged it behind my back. They had to shoot me out of it. So, like, Gillian kept shooting for about another month after I finished, because I had to go on to 50 Shades. So I then get sent all the episodes till, like, not for approval. They don't really care what I have to say. But they just, to be polite, they send it before they're aired, and there you go. And I was watching it. I was watching the second episode on a train from where we live in the middle of nowhere into London, and my dad just pops up like out of nowhere and delivers this like one line, like really kind of well. It was kind of good, and that was it. But he had to get like an equity card, which is our version of like a SAG card, so that he could get paid for the job and everything. So now he's like, he sees himself as like an actor.
Oh, does he really?
My first guest tonight plays the object of desire of millions of women in the 50 Shades series. In his new movie, Anthropoid, he plays an unsung hero of World War II. Please welcome Jamie Dornan.
Is that mine?
This is yours. This is yours. This is mine.
Oh, that's great.
This is mine. They look the same, but mine's hot and yours is cold.
I see that. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, you gotta stay hydrated.
That is gin.
Yeah. Just what you requested in your
true.
writer.
I know. I just remembered that.
We like to keep people happy here.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, what about your wife? If I was Jamie's wife, I'd really struggle to watch that because of the chemistry. You don't watch it?
My wife's one of the most, brilliant human beings in the world, and she doesn't. But also, why she hasn't watched it? Why would she watch it?
No.
She doesn't need to. She's got you at
What's a
home
bit
on
like
tap.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
Hey, let me ask you something. There's been talk online. Are you nude in the film? Are you full frontal? Are you naked? A lot of people want to hear this. I'm not that interested myself, but I feel it's a public service. I need to ask this question. Davina asked me to ask this just before the show.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know what.
You must have seen it, but do the rest of us get to see it? That's what I'm asking you.
I don't even know. I don't even know.
You don't know?
I don't know where the cameras were. I don't bother myself with that.
So you were naked when filming?
I don't find that I don't really care about all that sort of stuff,
Okay.
I'm not like nudist beach guy, but I don't really mind.
You're not Orlando Bloom. You're not out paddleboarding, but at the same time,
that was.
Oh
but
my God!
What was he doing?
That was something.
Like, amazing.
I must admit, you can see why he's proud of it.
You wouldn't see me doing that.
No.
I hate paddleboarding.
No.
Very first press conference of this year's festival. It is happening because of the international premiere of Anthropoid, which happened yesterday in the evening at various halls in Thermal. We have just calculated that the very first 2,000 people have seen it. The ones at the Grand Hall applauded for 5 minutes on the very end of the performance.
And to Jamie and to you as well, do you think people will say that you encourage today suicide bombers, terrorists, something like that?
To encourage terrorism? I think you asked me that. Yeah, the idea that this movie encourages suicide, terrorism, I think is pretty outlandish and pretty ridiculous, to be honest. We've made a movie about, trying to stick to the facts as much as possible, and these men were willing to die for their country, and that's something that people still hold today in certain conflicts. But in terms of promoting that or glamorizing that. I think that's nonsense.
I have a question for Jamie. Did you feel at some point intimidated working with people like Anna Kislerova, for whom this history means a lot, and they are emotionally involved because they have gone through this in their lives?
I don't think Anna's a very intimidating person. No, I mean it's a sort of a lovely aspect of doing this film and getting to work with Czech actors as well. Obviously, the story means something more to them than it would to the likes of like Killian and I or Toby. But by the time we started filming, the story is very close to our hearts, obviously, as well. And we, just hope that we were respectful to it as we went on. I hope you weren't thinking like, who are these, Irish people just trying to, come in and tell our story. And it works the other way around as well. You just hope that there's a sort of unity about making the best job, and you don't really think about any of that kind of stuff, to be honest.
Okay, my name is Karolina Košařová. I'm from Časopis Policista. Thank you very much for the brilliant film. I really enjoyed that. But I'm just wondering why Mr. Cillian Murphy isn't here.
That's a very good question. Let's call him. Let's call him.
Should we call him?
On FaceTime. I think he's currently evacuating British troops on the beaches of Dunkirk. But, he's very busy with that right now.
Yeah, he's shooting another movie. He just started like 2 days ago, so he couldn't be here. Very sad.
Paulo from Portugal. Question for you, Jamie. A few years ago, you were all over the news with the 50 Shades of Grey. Of course, I think it was a great project for you. My question is, how much were you eager to go onto something completely different as this realistic war piece? And if you would, you can update us in the next episode of Shades. What can you tell us about that?
No.
Thank you.
I won't talk about that project because I'm not here to talk about that project. But no, look, I think when you're, I don't really view my career in that way of like, I've done this kind of film, now I have to do another type of film. You're drawn to the projects you're drawn to and the variety of reasons for making those decisions. Usually script and director being sort of key, and a character that you feel that you can relate to or try to, bring something interesting to. Regardless of what my project had been before Anthropoid came along, I would have done it. If I'd done another movie about, Second World War just before, I still would have done Anthropoid because I was just so taken by the script. And I had, just seen Metro Manila like 3 weeks before I got sent the script. So I was desperate to work with Sean. So that's what informed my decision rather than any previous work.
Dobrý den, Michaela Široká, televize Prima. Já bych měla otázku na Jamieho. Dobrý den. Mě by zajímalo, vy už jste tady podruhé na filmovém festivalu v Karlových Varech. Jak se vám tady líbí, jestli se váš názor na tenhle festival nějak změnil? A především by mě zajímalo, co říkáte na vaše české fanoušky, převážně faninky. Těší vás ještě stále takový ten ohlas, takový ten popras kolem vás, nebo byste raději byl, kdyby se vás nikdo nevšímal?
I have some guy friends, I think. Do I not? No.
I was gonna say, do you remember? Because I'm a big Nolan fan,
Yeah.
like the whole fucking planet.
Yeah.
But that trailer is not bad.
Pretty good. How many times have you watched it?
I only watched it once, but it's funny.
Did you see Cillian in it?
I don't want to make any comments, but what's really funny is I was on. This is completely not about your excellent movie, but I was on the set of Transformers yesterday in Detroit, and it was actually a subject that came up with with Bay and some of the producers. That trailer,
Naturally.
talking about it.
That's at least 3 other people that have watched it. You'd be happy to know.
Are you guys doing like the franchise comparison thing where you're like making, you know, you're talking about which ones you're a part of?
No, he just can't stop talking about himself.
Well, I got to tell you, he was like that on the set of the movie.
I know, it's just relentless.
Yeah, it's nonstop. But let me be serious for a second and say how much I enjoyed this movie. It's so well done.
Thanks, man.
For both of you, talk a little bit about making a movie, like balancing the fact versus the fiction, and the fact that you're making a movie, but you're also trying to honor this story and these people.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're constantly carrying that weight of making sure you honor the people involved and honor the history and pay respect to these brave men and women who carried out, you know, the operation. But in the same breath, you're making a movie, or you're making a piece of entertainment, and you're trying to, you know, elevate it and make it as sort of watchable and as filmic as possible. So there'll be times where you're not making a documentary. You know, there's times where you want to bend things slightly to make it more of an entertaining thing. But on this, we were certainly aware that, I think, as far as like historical movies go, this sticks pretty close to the facts. You know, which was important to us. You know.
Well, you guys worked with someone. It's interesting that he's a writer, director, and he's the DOP. Yeah. So talk a little bit about working with a filmmaker who is right there, I mean, making some key decisions.
Yeah, he's kind of ultimate kind of polymath. He kind of does everything, and he lived with this story for 10, 15 years or something like that. Yeah, it's crazy. So he was this huge resource of knowledge for us, and gave us all of this information that he had amassed over the years, and it's just very comforting and reassuring to have someone who knows the story and the subject matter so in-depthly as Sean does. And you know, I've never had a director also shoot a movie, but it makes it feel like he's going through everything that you're going through. Like he'd be running down the street behind us with the camera, you know, like. And it's a big old camera because we shot on Super 16, you know. And so yeah, it was fantastic. I really felt that the 3 of us were making this thing together, and that we were all, you know, really in it together.
My family were all staying in Nice, so yeah. The rest of the crew and cast were staying in Monaco, so they were a bit further down the road.
I mean, was there a moment of panic?
And it's a very sobering, horrific experience, obviously, and then feels very sort of frivolous to be shooting a movie the day after, but we were contractually obliged. I know, I think it was important to do it back to back. It kept the energy up. I think it's a tough thing to sort of do one movie when there's so much expectation on these movies, and then to take yourself away for a year and a half, and then carry that expectation again into another 3 or 4 months. I think it was better just to do it in one whack and use that energy. And if we could sustain it over 2 movies, then that was a good thing. And I think we did. Yeah.
Jamie, can you have your eyes this way, sir? Jamie, straight ahead. Jamie, straight ahead this way.
These were more fun because the pressure was off in a way. That the first one, where, you know, I think the first movie of any franchise, there's a lot of pressure in terms of getting it right and setting the right tone and all that kind of stuff. So I felt like the pressure was off a bit this time.
You know, morally ambiguous decisions as a police officer, and there may be repercussions. I don't, you know, she's lied. I find that fascinating.
She's certainly a flawed character because all the characters are I hope, sort of true to life in the sense that they're a mixture of the good and the less good. But she's, you know, her determination, her focus, her sense of her mission are all fantastic, I think. But it's a debacle at the end of Series 2 in the Forest, to be fair. And there will be, as Julian suggests, it will be debated, it will be unpacked in some kind of way in the 3rd season.
I think if she had ended up sleeping with Archie Punjabi's character, I think that probably would have been a mistake.
She was from Croydon, so that wasn't going to happen. I'm from Croydon, you need to understand.
Julian and I
sparring partners we discussed two years ago. And you did say when you first read Alan's script, you thought, yes, this is a woman I'd like to see out there in the popular culture now. She's the kind of woman the culture right now needs. Do you think she has got out there as that kind of role model figure?
I do. Yeah, I do. Thanks to Alan. I think that. Well, first of all, certainly in terms of police force, I think there's been a few stories as of late where women in high positions in police have been undermined by fellow police officers, and you know, in that respect. But also she's so comfortable with who she is as a woman, and answers to no one, is uncompromising, and I think she is. I don't know if I've ever met anybody quite like her. I wish I was her.
Do you?
There are lots of aspects of her that are not me. That would be fun and interesting to spend more time with, or to adopt in some way.
Of course, we don't know about her home life, do we? Because she's been transported to these other cities.
Yeah. What do you think it is?
What do you think it is? Do you have a backstory for it?
Yeah, but I actually think it's more interesting not to know. A lot more interesting. And we learn a little bit more about her in series 3.
We do, yeah. I mean, I made a conscious decision in the first place, because it felt to me that a lot of TV detectives particularly, but TV characters created for TV, have a whole series of character traits and tics and things that they're presented up front, so they're often drunks, or they have they've had a case that's gone wrong, or they have a difficult marriage, or a difficult daughter.
Dirty raincoat.
And a dirty raincoat. And I thought that's not really our experience of getting to know most people. You get to know people in a public context very often. You meet people at work, and you get to know people through the decisions they make, which is one of the reasons why I had her proposition the police officer in episode 1 of season 1, because it's a decision that comes and it makes you think, oh my God, who is this person? I thought she was perhaps one type of person, and now this is happening. But I wanted that to unfold gradually. And one of the things that happened was, whenever there was any suggestion, there was one occasion, for example, where I wrote a phone call with her mother, but we were both very jumpy about that in terms of actually placing her in a class, or what kind of person was her mother, and so on. And Gillian's always been very wedded to the idea that enigmatic quality of Gibson, where you learn about her little by little, was something that she really signed up to right at the beginning, and plays brilliantly, which is that you, as Gillian says, you get more and more insights perhaps, but she doesn't come. It appears that she's not married, it appears that she doesn't have children, but I've always had this notion that if someone walked through the door and called her mother, you would go, oh my God, but you wouldn't, it could happen. I don't say it's going to happen, but it's that thing of...
You sort of act one scene, one enter Godot.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's kind of, we are judged often by the way we present ourselves, the things we say, things other people say about us, the decisions we make, as much as anything else. And so she makes a whole series of decisions, including, for example, when in series 1 Breedlove shoots himself and Eastwood is at a loss, she takes over and she handles that situation in this incredibly cool, calm fashion, which was my way of saying, look at her in a crisis. This is quite an exceptional person here. And of course showing no kind of female, in inverted commas, responses to this.
So may I quickly ask it's appalling to ask it quickly, but there is the misogyny question that the TV critic from the Mail who called The Fall an invitation to share an extended rape fantasy. Do you think by writing these 6 episodes and you 3 playing them, that criticism will be silenced now?
I would probably doubt it. If someone has such a kind of reductive, simplistic, unnuanced view of something, it's not going to change with another 6 hours of drama. It's personally insulting. It's something I had to talk to my daughter about, who was, I'm glad to say, counselled me very well about why I should not give it any more thought, because I was very upset by the implications, because after all, whose fantasy would it be but mine? And it was confusing, I think, something quite complex about the character of Katie, actually, is probably where it comes from. And, but I got, you know, I can think of, for example, someone else who's a TV producer I work with, who's, you know, who wrote to me specifically to talk about the emotional truth that she found in the journey of the character of Katie. So you offset, I try not to read things like that, but you offset some of that with what I know that look, I can't, you know, you can't say that you've never made any errors or you haven't, you know, could have done something better or something different, but I know, because I know myself and I know these guys and I know what we're all about in making the show, is that that's just an absurd comment. And I'm not saying the show isn't open to criticism, because of course it is, but there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that it's adopted a particular view, a particular criticism of the patriarchy and the way in which male violence against women sits within the patriarchy. And Gibson's talked about that, discoursed about it endlessly from a feminist perspective, to the point where it seems to not matter what she says, set against what Spectre does. And surely the issue is that Spectre is a misogynistic character, although as he says himself in season 2, I don't hate women, I hate everybody. Sorry, we're answering more than one question at once. I don't think... I don't think anything away, Don't answer it. Don't answer it. I've been told not to answer it. I'm sorry. Is this the final chapter?
You can answer that, can't you?
I think it... Can't we have an answer all afternoon?
The character secrecy has become absurd.
Yeah. It's not the end of the fall, necessarily. Not at all, no.
It's not?
Are you, would you two be happy to come back?
It's going to be a completely different show with different actors. Oh, right. It's going to be Aisling Bea, Valine Kane, Aisling Frank Erskine, and it's just going to be...
Over there, please.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you for a fantastic 3 series so far. And because of you guys, there's some girls over there, hello, that we all got together because we just absolutely adore the Fall. But I wanted to ask Jamie, and probably Alan as well, what, in his audition, he states he went for the role of the police officer. What did he do in that audition to make you think, yeah, we've got a serial killer here? So what did Jamie do, and what do you think he did that made
I'm as intrigued as anyone else.
I'd met Jamie, and I knew he was from that part of the world, so I thought it'd be a really good idea to get him in, and so we brought him in, as you rightly say, for the part of Olsen, which I didn't think he was right for when I was watching him do it, but we put him on tape for that, but when I looked at him on tape, I thought he had something extraordinary on camera, and I was pretty convinced straight away that we'd found our Spectre. I said so to all my colleagues, the Gub and Neil and everyone I was working with at the time. And so the suggestion was, I know Stephen Wright said, well, look, you're going to need more than him auditioning for the wrong part to present to Ben Stevenson at the point where we suggest that this is our piece of casting. So we dragged Jamie back from LA, and jet lag made him read for Spectre. I didn't need to do that, but it was felt that it should be done. And there was still, debate going on because he hadn't done a massive amount, and there were other names being floating around. But I was absolutely convinced that we found our Spectre, and I got very vociferous about it, essentially saying if it's not Jamie, then we don't have anyone, we don't have a show. But I sent the audition tape to. I sent the tape to Gillian. Said, I think we found our Spectre, and she emailed me back saying, hooray, we absolutely have. So that was a very useful part of my argument to get Jamie into it.
I think I am flattered by it.
It's just, I knew that whoever I cast was going to have to spend 50% of the screen time alongside Gillian Anderson. So I knew it had to be someone who the camera really liked, and who had an emotional depth, an intelligence in their eyes, an emotional quality, and so I thought Jamie had all of that. But it was, you know, we went into it, as you do into the beginning of a new drama, pretty unsure what we were putting together, and it's a voyage of discovery. Not now, because he knows who Spectre is and he plays Spectre, you know, he is Spectre, so again, it's just like a natural fit. But it was just seeing him on camera. I've had this experience before. You know, there have been people, you know, I watched an audition tape of Michael Fassbender when he was up for something I was doing, and as soon as I saw him on camera, I said, this guy's got something really special. Who is this guy? Then I really liked him, and we cast him. But you know, if you've got an experienced guy and you know what you're looking at in terms of acting, then like with Gillian seeing the tape of Jamie, you can look at people and go, yeah, they're really, really good. Sometimes you make mistakes, but drama often stands and falls on the nature of your casting, and the new casting for Series 3 is really exciting. And we brought in some fantastic people, one of them sitting here today, who is a stunning actress, not known primarily as an actress either, so I'm very excited about that. But yeah, you just have to have an eye for what works on screen, and it comes from experience, I think, probably. And on stage too.
So a question here.
Some people have it. You've got it.
They're both right.
Yeah.
This question is for Gillian. I was just wondering, what's the best advice you can give to young actors when facing rejection? I don't really like that word, but also thank you for portraying such an amazing, strong character, and thank you, Alan, for writing such an amazing, strong character.
Thank you.
I guess just perseverance, really, and to not take rejection personally. Sometimes rejection can be a gift, and as long as you show up and you feel like that you know that you've done the best that you've done at an audition or whatever it is, and couldn't have given any more, then you'll walk away feeling like, you know, I've left auditions feeling that I sucked, and I've left auditions for things that I really wanted and felt like I did okay. But I didn't actually necessarily need to have it, because I knew that I did okay in the room and it wasn't up to me.
Someone else, there's a person at the back.
Hi, Jimmy. At the launch of the first series, you said you couldn't really relate to Spectre because you weren't a murderer, you weren't married, and you didn't have children. No, I presume you're still not a murderer, but you are now married and you have children, so does that change how you feel about him and how you play him?
We were just discussing that, how insane the last 4.5 years have been, and actually the fall kind of marks, it's just been this omnipresent part of the last 4.5 years, where personally so much has changed, and professionally so much has changed for me. Yes, I wasn't a father, hadn't killed anyone, I wasn't a husband at the time, although we were engaged just before I got apart. Yeah, it's funny that we see, I guess we see less of him as a father in this series, I'd say, and having children, it's like a reset button. I mean, you're a totally different human being. The fundamentals of your life are instantly altered overnight, all in the most positive way imaginable. I didn't have any of that to draw on with the father aspect of the first series, but you know, there is nothing like love you feel for your children, but I really drew on my niece. I didn't even have a nephew at the time, but the love I had for her, because it was the closest thing and it's the only child that I sort of spent, you know, a decent amount of time with. So yeah, and then you know, it's easy enough to portray a husband. I think I've been in a long relationship at that stage anyway. It's just more of the same.
Kay is returned. Her corpse is returned to her father, and her father says, "My baby, my baby." It intercuts with the young mother who is saying, my baby," to the baby in the incubator. And there are a couple of things at play there. I wanted people to recognise that we all have a very strong will to live, and that what Sarah Kay was facing at the end of the first episode was mind-blowingly horrific. The notion that when he removes the mask, that she sort of senses that he intends to kill her. So I was trying to get the enormity of that. And also the try to in some ways, play out the tragedy of losing a child or a sister in case of Marion, and that dramatising the idea that the very small baby who's only 21 or 22 weeks old has a will to live, strong will to live, and that the mother who's only 17, and this is what affects Sally Ann, already loves the baby from the bottom of her heart. So I was trying to say how much more painful and awful it is for Ian Kay to be looking at that site. So I was trying to convey the enormity of what Spectre does. And in the third season, again, as you'll have seen, there are people dedicated to saving another human being's life. It just so happens that it's Spectre's life. But as O'Donnell says, you know, that's our job, that's what we're here to do. But it can't be without complexity for them, and it can't be. And this is something in Northern Ireland that plays very strongly, because of course, you know, he says that in the scene, but you know, going back into the Troubles, you could be, as a medic, you could be treating, you know, a member of the Shankill butchers alongside. You could be Catholic, treating a Protestant killer, or you could be, you know, treating a police officer alongside a bomber or something like that. So they've always understood those dilemmas.
So when you started writing, did you intend it to go to the third season, and for that season to be in a hospital initially?
No, not quite. No, I mean, I originally pitched for 12 parts, and Ben Stevens has said, well, you can have 5, and I said, I can't do it in 5, and he said, well, you don't have to finish it. So that was always, sorry, at the end of the first season.
At the end of the first season, we thought, we're not going to get it.
No, some frustration, I would guess, but also it was always planned that there would be a second season. Of course, I couldn't be absolutely sure there'd be a second season, but we were recommissioned after 3 weeks or something like that. With regard to the third season, yes, I always had ideas about where that would go, and I had a very strong idea about where it would end and how it would end for the characters. But it was, by its very nature, then a medical drama, so I had to kind of get my head around the idea of directing a medical drama for the first time, which was really interesting and a challenge, but exciting to do as well.
And it is called The Fall. Will we see redemption in this third part?
I believe so. I'm not going to say too much about what characters are redeemed and what aren't, but there's always been this sense that Gibson particularly is fighting to protect and to redeem characters where she can. That becomes even more of an imperative for her, I think, as the third season unfolds. But of course, all the characters are sort of fighting for themselves as well, in the face of the horror that someone like Spectre wreaks, you know, on his family, on his wife, on the victims, the co-victims, and so on. So I've always wanted the ramifications of Spectre's actions to radiate out and, you know, and resonate for everybody.
It does sound as if it's going to be a little bit more optimistic.
He says optimistically.
I say optimistically.
Yeah, exactly.
And the idea that people are trying to save lives as well as destroying.
There are people who are trying to save lives, but I've always, you know, I go back to what I was saying about Sally Ann, her dedication to save life. There have always been people who have been trying to save life, and that means, biggest of all, Gibson from the first moment is trying to stop him from doing what he's doing, find him, catch him, stop him from doing what he's doing, protect other people's lives. And so The Fall has always been about how far you can protect yourself against that kind of dark force when it's alive.
I suppose to do with this kind of leads on to the question of whether there is anything redeemable in the man you play. You must be relieved not to see too much dialogue in that first. It's an incredibly eloquent tear that you shed. I'm going to end up feeling sorry for this man.
That was a tricky time, trying to get that tear out. It was a very technical shot, get the emotion, it was very tricky.
Was it real?
It was real, actually. It was real. Yes, thanks.
No. What were you thinking about?
God, we won't get into that. But yeah, it's hard to find any redeeming qualities in Spectre. But I feel that you know, when playing him, the aspects of him that are commendable, and I'm saying that, you know, there's very few, but you know, I do think there's an element of she shows traces of being a good father at times, particularly. No, I'm serious. You know, I'm serious. And it's specifically in the first series, I do think he shows something close to love particularly to Olivia, to his daughter. I do think that he approached his profession as a bereavement counsellor with professionalism, and we've talked about this. I think he provided some good quality level of support to families who were in grief of losing someone. I mean, that's the genius of Alan's writing, is that this is someone who is very adept at taking life, and he is also relatively adept at helping people through losing someone. They are as close to redeeming.
And he has lost someone. He's lost his mother.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and that is a big element of the way he is, of who he became.
There's this dialogue in the second season between Stella and Jim Byrne, where Byrne describes him as Spectre as a monster, and Stella says no, he's a man. He's on a continuum with other men. Do you agree with that? It sounds like you don't see him entirely as a monster.
I think it'd be wrong to play him entirely as a monster. I think he's got to have one of the reasons that makes Spectre, I think, compelling, and certainly I've found him very alluring from the first moment I read the scripts in the first series 5 years ago, whatever it was, is that he is, there has to be relatable aspects to him. There's got to be aspects that other human beings can identify with to an extent, and you've got. I always felt that when I'm playing those moments with the children, I'm playing them as a father and nothing else, and there should be no undercurrent of menace or a psychopath in those moments, because they are. Why would there be? He's a father talking to his daughter. He's a father talking to his son. And he's also been talking to his wife in the early parts of the first series. I always thought to play him, I don't view him totally as monstrous, because I've always wanted to avoid that tag in my interpretation of portraying him.
So how method are you in preparation for this role? Do you lock yourself in a bathroom and think I'm being salted for an hour before you go on to
I can always say, the worst thing always comes to my mind when people present the questions like no, I've never done that, but no, look, I mean, that whole term method is so, so many forms of it now. It's become this thing that this is one way to approach, but everyone, to an extent, every actor, I think, has a method of sorts, and they approach it a different way. You don't want to be too method in the layman's definition of method. I think most people think it's staying character all the time. I would never want to do for someone like Spectre. I don't think I would have a wife anymore. But I've especially 3 series in, 4.5 years in, I have ways of locking myself into his psyche quickly without having too much of build-up for the most part, and that's just come over time and having an understanding of the character, I think. But no, I'm very much when I can, I jump out of his skin, because I think that's appropriate.
There was a moment when we were in season 2. We were shooting in Spectre's lair, which is a really unpleasant environment, and it was with Val, who's here tonight, and she was playing Rose Stagg, and she was doing the stuff direct to camera, the defiant, well, the whole range of running the gamut of emotions that she was running through, including, and she was crying and shouting at the camera, and I was sitting by the monitor crying, watching her. Jamie was waiting to do his bit. I looked across at him. He had his head in his hands. He was so affected by what she was doing, and it came to the point where Val said, "Can I go again?" I said, "I can't actually watch you do it again. I promise you it's brilliant, but you can't do this to me again." I've written the damn stuff as well. And then Jamie did the bit where he turned the camera on himself, and he did it brilliantly, but it wasn't that he was identifying with Spectre in order to do that, quite the reverse. He was in turmoil about it and felt the horror of it as much as anyone did. But when it came to acting that moment, he completely nailed it because he's a brilliant actor. And when we played the scene to Gillian, the editor cut those tapes together, and I said I didn't want Gillian to look at the tapes before she saw them, and so the scene where she watches the tapes and cries, we just put 2 cameras on her, it's 1 take. That was Gillian's response to watching the videos. So, you know, I'm blessed to have just brilliantly, emotionally deep and empathetic, powerful actors to play in the moment. But actors get into the moment, and in the moment, they believe it completely and utterly, and that's what they do. That's what they're so fantastic at. And actually, as a writer, if you're writing and you're not crying at a moving scene, then you're probably not getting it right in some kind of way. So I sit at the monitor and cry a lot of the time. But I figure that I should be in tears at some of the stuff I've written. But
have you cried, Julian, during the process of this?
Of this series?
This series?
No, yes, but I'm not going to talk about it.
There's no sugar.
Yes.
I mean, that really
we learn more and more about the characters as this season goes on.
Do you fit into that character quite easily, Stella Gibson, quite quickly now in the 3rd season? Do you find it easy to put on that outfit and become her?
Yeah, I mean, even when we're doing wardrobe fittings in Selfridges, you know, the minute those clothes get pulled off the rack and I put them on, I can come in my, you know, combat boots and my hair in a ponytail, and I put those clothes on and they're Stella.
They're not your style. You don't have a closet at home full of silk shirts.
I'm dying to ask me that.
This show makes me so complicit in the male conspiracy.
You really want me to answer that question?
I'm interested in knowing the style of clothes.
What my style of clothes is?
I
wear jumpsuits. 20-inch heels. Do I have? I mean, I suppose I've got some. It
was a look that was pretty much put together by Maggie Donnelly, the costume, and Gillian, and I think it worked incredibly well. I wrote in the first scene, she's in sweatpants, Uggs, a vest, a face mask, washing the bath, desperately trying to get ready to go to Belfast. But when she turns up at Belfast Airport, she's in the overcoat and she's presenting a face to the rest of the world of the professional arriving to do a professional job. So Gillian, I think, came up with costume ideas together with Maggie that sort of worked for a woman in that context. And there are other things we see, obviously her, in repose and all the rest of it. But it's a look that really works, I think, for character. And she is.
And there was that
Gibson,
element in this episode when somebody goes back and finds the clothes.
Yes.
It is very much part of Stella's persona.
Because she thinks she's going to be talking to the press and she wants to present herself in the right kind of way to do that. Then Burns, of course, says, you're not. But
and of course, Burns finds it very provocative, the way Gibson dresses as well.
That might be you as well, Andrew. I'm not sure.
I knew it was going to be so.
Yeah. Burns
There's
is
no way
very,
out for a man watching the show.
Burns is very conflicted. Burns is very conflicted about Gibson altogether.
Yeah.
Burns, as he said in season 2, I would have left my wife, my job, my children, everything for you. And Gibson says that would have been a mistake.
A lack of compassion
She's
towards
quite
a man.
she's quite tender with, I think, with him, I think.
She's very tender with Anderson. I think she's deliberately tender with him and treats him gently. And we see more of that as the 3rd season goes on. But she absolutely makes the right decision. I mean, she has to save his life. She can't. I mean, the family has to have closure. He has to. For him to die there on the side of the road would be, I mean, beyond devastating for everybody.
It's always a learning curve as well, isn't it? For someone like Gibson, she's always trying to learn more about what makes someone like Spectre tick, on the basis that it will make her a better detective, a better police officer in the future.
Well, she's clearly the best police officer
in the world.
In the world. Are any of you going to own up to that she has any flaws?
She has lots of flaws.
Give me one.
Give you one? think
That wasn't intended.
No.
That's not even a thing, is it?
No, it's not a thing. I don't think it's necessarily a good decision for her to sleep with
than
Depends what
when
you
Nancy
do, but,
points. Yeah, it's really changed your career, didn't it, that role?
Yeah, I do think so, yeah. I mean, certainly professionally, it totally changed my life, and I'm forever grateful to it, you know.
End of the second series,
Yeah.
you just think, well, where can you go from here?
Well,
to the hospital,
That's the million-dollar
Yeah,
question, isn't it? But it's so... I mean, I watched the first series and I got so tense that I had backache at one point because it was that frightening. I mean, for the third series...
Wouldn't it be really creepy if I'd come in behind
Yeah, it'd be really, really grim, really grim. How much darker can your character actually get then?
Well, I mean, I guess there hasn't been an intention to try to do that, though we haven't been trying to show him to be any darker. The proof is in the pudding, I think, so far. But it goes in quite an unexpected place, Series 3, I'll say, without giving too much away. And Alan Cubitt, who created it, and I are very close, and I didn't even really see coming what he had planned for it, so yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you get a break from that because you've got other projects in the pipeline as well, of course, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a lot coming out at the moment. It's just this very strange thing, and you never plan this, and I certainly wouldn't have planned it this way, but I've got 4 different projects coming out on different platforms in the next 5 weeks, so I'm doing a lot to remind myself of what I'm doing press for.
Well, you'll be back now next week talking about something else.
Probably, yeah.